Strikemaster!
This video is going to show how to take apart and put back together a Williams Strikemaster ShuffleAlley, which is a unique system as opposed to other ShuffleAlleys. But first, we need a couple of men to help us do it. Alright, guys, get your tools.
What tools?
The tools you've been using for the last 10 years.
Those tools.
Okay, let's get started over here. First, you have to take off the back door of the machine, which is two Phillips screws. Then you have to disconnect the power. Now, notice the pinball rubber here keeps the wires in place for the alley. That's important so you don't pinch anything. Unclip and unplug your plugs. Jonathan, why don't you start with the head? Now while he's unplugging over here, Jonathan is going to take the glass out of the back. Okay, you set your glass aside so it's not damaged. And inside the head, you have to unbolt the bolts in the bottom of the head that bolt this section to the base. Franklin, can you see them?
John's pulling them out.
Okay, in the meantime,
The other ones were behind the transformer.
Chris is finishing unplugging the plugs here.
Hey, short round, thank you. Short round.
Okay, I'll say it. They want me to call him his shop name, which is Short Round, courtesy of the Indiana Jones movie.
Dr. Jones.
Now, the wires are coming up, as you can see. So everything from the head is almost disconnected. We have one more power plug, and then we have the grounds. The grounds. Good. You see these three bolts? That's the alley bolts. You have to disconnect the alley from the machine. Now,
9/16.
there are 9/16 in almost every case, probably in your case too. Now we put the rubber back on so we can reuse that down the road. Now, we've had some occasion where some imbecile or clodhopper has drywall screwed the alley in. The alley is supposed to just be slid in there, and it's supposed to be able to be slid out. You may have to find that there are screws. You may have to find screws that somebody put in there to anchor it if you've never had this machine apart. And those screws are not supposed to be in the machine. The alley's it's designed to go in and out. As a matter of fact, we'll show you service positions too. And of course you want to keep your bolts safe and sound. Now you may need a flat screwdriver. Get a flat one, like the top of, I was going to say his head, but I'll say like the top of my head, to help. Or in this case, he's latched this tool on the bolt to help pull it out, which is a very good idea. Very good idea. This is what your alley should do. Listen, while we got it out, this rubber here is held in by these 5 screws. The puck only hits the bottom of it. It's designed for 2 uses. So if the bottom of your rubber is all cut and torn, you should change your rubber, but you can instead flip the rubber over and use the other side. That would work with some of these boys here. However,
Always use a fresh rubber.
you can switch the rubber. The rubber is good until it cuts, until it's broken.
It'll cost you for the next 18 years.
Okay, slide this baby out.
Oh.
Yeah. Now Short Round is going to show you the field flips over for service. It's actually designed to do this. See, so when you work on your alley, you don't have to find another place to put it on. So you can work on and service your switches. We're going to show another video showing you how the switches are serviced. We're not going to do that today. This is just to show you how you can flip the field over to do service. Okay, let's get up to the head.
Oh.
Okay, we're going to put it back in the correct way because it's only flipped for service. You should get a second imbecile to help you with this, by the way. That's me. Yeah, I call myself an imbecile. See, Frank? Okay. Good.
If you can't get it in, wiggle it a little bit.
Yeah, you know, if things don't fit, you should just wiggle them in before you push them again. Before you push. Yeah. Okay, now, Jonathan, how's our head coming?
Got the 2 bolts out.
Good.
And now the head.
Now we swing the head back up. You don't have to put the glass back in yet because what you want to do is make sure you don't monkey up the wiring. So we'll keep the head glass out for now. And the head easily lifts right off the machine. And then you'd store your cable inside, obviously. Now, you could look inside. See, this is one of the boards that we serviced earlier and reflowed solder. Here's your motor. And also you should, when you have it apart, make sure that the brackets here that hold this main part are still in tight. These screws can work loose after so many years. Also check to make sure your motor screws are tight. The 2 screws here and on this side. This doesn't change from game to game. Older machines don't have the circuit board here. They instead have an old-fashioned relay. Okay, now the next step is to take the pin section off from the body. And Jonathan and Chris are going to take out the 4 bolts on each side to do that. Now you do need a second person to help you. Unless you took your
And I also like
Wheaties.
to, I don't know if you want to call them, have all the pins up so they don't get broken.
Oh, good
done.
suggestion. Keep your pins out of the way so there's no damage. Now this lifts up. Look at that. I'm always in the way. I'm always in the way. Now, the last step are these 4 bolts on both sides, 2 and 2. Now, if you've never had your alley apart, you may be in for a surprise because mice like to build and have their little houses inside the bases. I can't tell you how many of these we've taken apart and we've found it full of
Found
little
some of the
mouse
engineers
nests
still in there?
and a lot of dead ones. We haven't found a live one yet, but we found some carcasses of some old mice. Now that won't be the case here because while we were rebuilding it, this whole base was removed and actually turned upside down, cleaned, and we put the new wood in.
We put cheese in there to attract new mice.
Oh yeah. We put little cheese, so we get little jerrys in there. We try to get little tiny jerrys building their little houses in the bottom. So this base will come off here, very easily lift up, and that's when you'll discover it. Okay guys, let's lift it off. Now it's a good idea to have one of these handy so you can vacuum out any debris that's down inside there. Okay, because that's where it would be. That's where our little nests would be and our pieces. Also, underneath here, you shouldn't lift the machine up yet because this is the pan that catches all the sand from your ShuffleAlley. You take 1 or 2 screws out and then this slides off. This pan is empty, so we don't have a problem doing it. But do not lift this up until you've gotten that pan empty out. Otherwise, your floor will be full of very slippery sand. Good. Now, I'm going to show you, well, we're not doing it in this case, but I want to show you that you can unbolt this box by removing these 2 bolts here, and usually there's 2 more inside the machine. And then this whole bottom panel, and here are the other 2 bolts that you take out, and then you unplug these plugs. And then this whole bottom base will come loose. Now let's see that. Again, you carry in your machine into the place you want to put it in. You bolt your front part on. Okay? Then you bolt the back part on. Now you got it set here. Then you put the pin section on. them in tight. Good. Now, our pin section. Once again, you're careful not to pinch any wires. Good. Of course, all this time is a good time for you to wipe down things that you see that are out of line, anything that you want to do. And we'll hand tight these. This gives you some flexibility, especially to get these 3 bolts in. These are the critical ones that hold the alley in. Now these bottom ones can be plugged in. There we go. Now there's a knockout in all of these connectors so you don't make a mistake. Do you see that that clear knockout pin? It corresponds with the empty slot here. So there's our switches. There's the knockout pin. There's a knockout up here. So you don't make any errors. The top row, of course, is for the pin section up top. Now this one has 4, and this one has 6. So you're going to match these up right to the right spot. And one goes under there. Good. All right, now the boys will lift the top part on. Now, since I'm here, I'll help. I am good for something, aren't I? Uh-oh. I got definite aggravation and anger. Now, once again, you want to make sure nothing is dangling. And you'll see our cables coming here. Now, see how they've put slots here? That's our power that goes up to the transformer in the head. That's our main power coming in and our on-off switches. Now, you have to make sure you dress the wires. Dressing the wires means you're keeping the cables away from the spinning motor, which is here. So we're going to go up in the head and we're going to pull this ribbon cable out of the way so there's no chance it's going to, so Frank, come around on this side. Nothing can get clogged in there. See how this cable's hanging there? Jonathan's going to pull the cable up and make sure it's dressed and out of the way. So there's no way the cable can screw your game up. That would be a complete disaster, wouldn't it? Everything is very nicely color coordinated. Your white and green wires are your switch lines. Your orange wires are your special switches, what they call them. Your red and yellow are your computer controlled lights. And your brown and purple are always your solenoid circuits. And there's our speaker there. And our GI and power coming in and your power for your other circuits. This leaves us only with one more connector, and that's the fluorescent light at the bottom. Okay. Good. Now, our side dressings are over here. Good. Now, before I turn the machine on, I always check to make sure nothing is near this motor in this spinning mess. This is attached and not moving. Good. Okay, and then we'll put our ground wire on. We no longer use the ground from the playfield. That is the last thing that we remove because all that does is ground the switches on the playfield, and that has been nothing but trouble. We will show you an upcoming video on what to do with your switches if you're overhauling your machine. Good. And then these handles, you know what they're designed for? They're designed so I can get up. Okay, good. Now we're ready to plug it into the wall.
Don't forget the 2 bolts in the head.
Oh, gosh, 2 bolts in the head. You're right. You're always right. Jonathan, I may give you a raise in 20 years. Oh, you were waiting to use that line. Almost done. can see he's preparing the socket now. Make sure you use the 120 volt circuit. Good, it's powering up, it's loading, computer's happy, and now to reset our pins. This game has a delay. Strikemasters and League Champs have a delay. Now this set of keys for the top, these are unique to this machine. These keys are now going here on a hook inside the front door. Okay, now, this key is our master key. So if you lose the key down the road, we can send you another one. That's our master.
You also forgot 3 more bolts in the back.
Yes. Well, we're not done yet. Jonathan is tightening, and Short Round is installing the most important bolts of the game. By the way, these bolts are actually head bolts from a pinball machine. These are the same size length as a pinball bolt for a pinball leg, but they're not pretty as the pinball leg bolts, and they're also a slightly different size. I forgot to mention, when you have the base off, that's a good time to change the old panty waist board, the 1x4 Williams put on and put a 2x4 with some man bolts through it. Hold the casters.
Be a Strikemaster.
Hold the legs, the casters on, and you can buy the casters from Lowe's, like $4.50. Don't get the kind that lock in, that have the brakes. Just get the freewheeling kind and their heaviest weight, which I think is $150, which is about what I weigh at each leg.
What your lunch weighed.
Okay, I think we're done. This beauty. Put the head bolt, the head bolts are in, side bolts are in. Double check everything, and gentlemen, you're good to go. Thanks for watching. Good night. Now get out!
We're in the yellow pages under Amusements.
Living is good, isn't it, folks? That's all for now. Good night.